Hello. Welcome to this new video. This time we are going to be talking about Hydra, as you can see right here. And at the time of this video, the current version of Hydra is version 9.4. Came out in 2022, at least the release came out in 2022. And as any other security tool, there's a disclaimer for the tool, and it says, please do not use on military or secret organizations. And I should say that you should not use these tools on systems where you don't have permissions to use them. In this case, I'm using this tool on my test environment to show you how the tool works so you can have a better understanding of the security controls you need to have in place to protect against potential attacks like this. Or if you want to use the tool for your own research and for your own testing, here it is. So for this environment, I have two computers. I have this computer right here that is a Windows 11. This is the latest release of Windows 11. I just downloaded the ISO and I installed it on a VM. And then I have another Windows 11 computer. This is an older Windows 11 system that was updated from or upgraded from Windows 10, and this one does not have all the installed patches and hotfixes. And there's a reason why I am bringing that up before we start doing anything. Also, something you have to keep in mind that when you type in the command Hydra, the options are very simple. These are the options right here that you can use. And it is a very simple tool to use, very fast and very effective. And as you could see, it's not complicated at all. And lastly, before we start working on this, you can see right here on the hub section, the supported services, right? So when we're testing this tool, we have to test it again, supported services. Meaning, and it's going to show you the list of supported services right here. As you could see, it shows HTTP, HTTPS, it shows ICQ, IRC, it shows LDAP, and so on and so forth. And for this video, we're going to be concentrating on RDP. RDP is the protocol for remote desktop, and the protocol for remote desktop that is being used on, in this case, on my test Windows computers. So with that being said, let's start the exercises. So I'm gonna open a new tab, so I'm gonna be going back and forth. So I'm gonna do Hydra, which is the name of the command, obviously. And then you have the option of doing two things right here. In this case, I do know the username of the remote computer that I want to attack, right? Let's say that I want to come here to this computer, and if I use net user, I'm going to see that I have user 2 and user 1. These are going to be my test users, and on the other computer is the same case. I have user 2 and user 1. So those two users are going to be my test accounts. Now, these two computers right here are just standalone computers. They are not part of a domain. It just so happens that I created the same username and passwords on both computers for this video to show you how the utility works. Now, when you're using Hydra, you can either test a password list against user accounts, or you can do a what is known as a password spread and test a user of passwords against users. So users against passwords or passwords against users. So let's do the one example at a time. So in this case, I do know, okay, you know what? I know the user name of the remote computer, but I don't know the password. That's what we're trying to solve right here. So when you come here to Hydra, you're going to notice that, you're going to notice that you have to specify the user that you want to test on with -L, right? So I'm going to do -L and the name of the user. In this case, I'm testing on user 1, as you could see here. So once you do that, you have to specify which password list you want to use to test against that user. So you use capital P to, like tell the system, I'm going to use this password list, and then point to the password list. And it just so happens that I'm in the same folder, but I'm going to point to the whole directory word list, and then it's going to be rockU2.txt. And let me stop here for 1 second. Let me open up a new tab. Oh, this is the tab that I was looking for actually. So let me go to that directory so I can show you something. So if you've noticed right here, I am using the, I have my word list, right? Like the RockU word list, as you know, is that, that word list that you can download on your systems and use it, and it has thousands of possible password combinations. But for this video, I'm not gonna use this list because it's too long. So what I did, I created a new list called RockU2, which is the same concept. So you can either use this word list if you think that you're going to be able to, that it will contain the passwords, and you never know, right? We're doing a dictionary attack right here. So anything that we can put our hands on is going to be useful. Or you can create your customized list if you want, and then use that list. Now, I'm just going to inject something in the middle of this video. If you like this video, please click on the like button, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, and I'm just going to let you know that I'm going to create a new video of how to create word lists using Hashcat. So that's going to be super useful because right here we're using something that was created for us, and it may or it may not have the password that we're looking for, but you can create your customized list. So if we go back to the command, let me go back here, and then we're going to one more thing right here, just a quick review. So remember, this is the user that we know, and we're saying, you know what, we want to test this password list against this user. So that's how you have to think about in what we're trying to do right now. But we are not done with the syntax yet, because we have to specify the service that we want to use. And in this case, I'm going to specify the port that RDP is working on. And I'm using, when you enable RDP on a Windows computer, that's going to be working on the default port of 3389, right? Which is the default RDP, as you could see it right here. Now, it doesn't mean that RDP will always run on 3389. The administrator can have RDP running on any other port other than 3389, but let's use it as the default settings for simplicity. But just keep that in mind, that RDP can run on any other port if the administrator chooses to do so. So once you do that, then you have to specify that you are testing RDP, the service, and you have to specify the IP address of the remote host. So let me come here. If I do an IP config, we're going to do the first computer 172.16.100.210. And then once you have all that information, you can hit enter, and the system is going to do its magic, or it's going to try to do its magic, right? So let me do that. Just keep that in mind, that depending on the hardware that you are running and the lists that you're using, this may take a short time or a long time. Just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna hit enter, and that's gonna do, it's gonna attempt to do something. So I was gonna pause the video and then come back to it. Now let me show you a couple of things right here, because this is something that you have to pay attention. So in this case, we're saying warning, server often don't like many connections. So when we're testing in this type of with this type of tools like Hydra, we're going to have a lot of multiple connections going to the remote server at the same time. And depending on the service, it may reject those connections. Hey, you know, we're not ready to receive all these connections at the same time. So that's what's happening right here. And the system is telling you, or Hydra is telling you, you know what? Try using -t and a time to delay the number of concurrent connections that you're using, or use the W to wait between connections, right? So you can try that again, because right now the remote service or server in this case is rejecting the connection. It's saying, you know what, I don't want to have, you're sending too many connections. Usually when people try to connect to RDP, it's a username and a password. Even if they get it wrong one time, they're not gonna send like hundreds of connections at the same time. So just keep that in mind. So you can do that. So let's do that and give it a try one more time. So we're gonna come down here, and we're gonna use -t1 -w4 as described in the help menu. And this is going to try to run one more time with the same settings, and it's saying, you know what, I'm not figuring this out. Like the system is saying, whatever is happening right there on the other end, I'm getting rejected, it's not working for me. Okay, so let's try the same command on my other host running Windows 11, but the older version of Windows 11. And the IP address of this host is 5.103, so 5.103, and let's hit enter and let it do its magic. I'm gonna pause the video and I'll come back to it when it's done. Okay, so it is done. The command took probably 2 minutes to complete. Remember, this is a customized list that I have. And as you can see right here, it found the information. It saves up to host 172.16.5.103 using RDP 3389. The username that I specify, the password for that username is this one right here. As you can see, this password is what we would consider a complex password. It has uppercase, lowercase symbols, and is like over 10, maybe 12 characters in length. So by itself, we can say that this is a complex password, but because we're using a dictionary attack, it doesn't matter how long the password is if we have that information as part of the list, right? So if I go back to my list right here, the list that I used, remember that I used the RockU2 list, right? So this one. So if I do, if I see the content of that list, so let me come here. You're going to see that as part of the list, I have that, the passwords that I'm testing on. And this was just over what, like 1,000, not even 1,000 entries, like 300 entries. So the longer the list, depending on where the password is, the longer it's going to take. So we have that information. But what about if we know a password, right? And we don't know the username. You may be asking, how can someone know a password and not a username? Probably you're guessing a password. Probably somebody wrote a password on a piece of paper, or probably, somebody went to one of those lists of common passwords and sees a password that maybe he or she believes is being used by this person, right? So there are many different reasons why you may have the password and not the username. So in that case, you're going to do a password spray, which means that you're going to be testing that password against a multiple accounts. So in this case, we're not going to be using the password list. We're going to be using a names list. And in this list, we're going to have a whole bunch of possible usernames that we're going to be testing these passwords against, right? And this is very common, actually. As a matter of fact, like most likely your accounts are being tested over password sprays. It happens all the time. So if you have one of those systems that monitors password activities out on the web, or password of failed attempts on Microsoft, you could see like password sprays and how malicious users are trying to gain access. So let's do that. Let's go over to the other example. So in this case, we're going to go, again, Hydra, and we are going to specify a list, the user list, with the capital L. So you have to be very careful when you're using the options. Lowercase l is different than uppercase L. And then you have to specify to the list. I'm in the directory where the list is, but I'm going to show you the whole path just as because I'm used to it, right? But if I wasn't creating the video, I just type the name of the list right here because I am in the directory. So, okay, and this is going to be names2.txt. And then you have to specify the password that you want to test against that against the list of usernames. Now I know the password. I have it here. So the password is what? Very complicated. And then you have to specify the service that you want to test on. Is RDP, and then the host that you are testing against. One 172.16.5.103. We're going to be testing on this host first, and let's hit enter and see how it goes. So it's doing its magic. I'm gonna pause the video until I get the results, and I'll be right back. Okay, and the results are back, and as you could see, it found a match for this password on that list of usernames. It found a match for this password, and it says, you know what, this password is a match for whatever password this username is using. As you could see, we performed a password spray by doing this. If I try to use, let's say, the other username, it's going to be the same thing, so I'm not going to recreate that just to show you the same results. So at least you have an idea of how Hydra works. So something to keep in mind here, and you may be asking, you know what, this is kind of tricky. I didn't know that it was so much, so easy to do these kind of things. It's easy and it's not that easy at the same time, because depending on what you're doing, first of all, you need to have the right list, either the user list or you need to have the right password list. And that's not that complicated, but it may be complicated depending on the target that you're trying to attack. The other thing is that you as a user, you can do many things to prevent this type of attacks over RDP. Number one is that, first of all, never have RDP open out on the web, right? I know that this is a practice that people still do back in the days, or probably they still do, that they open RDP because they want to remote desktop into a server. Don't do that. On the web, they do port forwarding or something like that. Don't make these services available out on the web unless you have the proper security controls in place. I would advise you there if we're going to do something like this, probably you want to set up an ACL on the other systems, an access control list, and you could do this on the Windows firewall that only allowed a limited number of connections into your systems for a specific service. And let me know if you want to know how to do that. I can create a video for that. It's super simple to use. And these are basic concepts that you can use. Also, you can do account logs out, that if somebody tries to connect to a system after a certain number of times, it's going to disable that account. So there are many things that you can do to prevent a successful password attacks like this. So I hope this information was useful to you. If you like this information, all I ask is just please click on the like button, subscribe to my channel, leave a nice comment. That's good karma. And I will talk to you on the next video. Have a good day. Bye.